Live from the Cajun capital of the world.
I'm the average Lafayette, Louisiana kid.
See, I'm back on my...
Hey, fellas. Hey, Brady Review said, congratulations. Say what's up, y'all. Yeah!
People that have courage don't have no extra gene and no difference in you. The difference is, are you going to sit down when it's time to stand up?
Ladies and germs, children of all ages, welcome into another edition of Rage and Review. Already getting some comments in the chat. What's up, Elliot? Koozie God here. We got a lot of Bryce's in the house. Got a lot of comments already getting started. These fellas are ready to go, boys. They're ready to get talking about baseball, the JMU series. I don't know why he even mentioned McNeese State, but we'll talk about them as well. But first of all, got to welcome our guest this evening. Well, Mike, you're always a guest on here. So, I mean, technically it would be you in the spot. But Brendan Bro, former T-Sab Tiger and a former Ragin' Cajun, came to us from across the basin. It's fine. It's fine. We forgave him and forgot, and he came home. And that's the important part. He came home to the Cajuns, and we're not letting him go. Brendan, what's going on, man? How you doing?
What's up, guys? Thanks for having me, man. I'm excited.
What refresh my memory? What years did you played at UL? I can't remember. It was 18?
18 I started. There was no transfer portal free pass rule at the time, so I had to sit out the year in residency. My first year actually playing was 19. 20 was supposed to be my senior year. Then COVID happened, and then I finished in 21. So
that's what it was.
At UL from 18 to 21.
Yeah, you felt like Stephen Feehan in those few years. Stephen felt like he was with us for like 12 years, and in that span, you know.
Oh, man. So my parents actually for Christmas that year got me a bat from Louisville Slugger. And on the end, it had like the hook handle, like a cane with a little button at the end of it, rubber button at the end of it. It was effectively a cane, but in the inscription, it said the Agin' Cajun.
Oh, that's awesome. I like that.
I still got it, but I'm not going to use that for quite a while.
To answer you, Elliot, yes, Brendan does commentary with Dan McDonald. And do you know how many games you've done color for? Do you have an approximate number of games? And the reason I'm asking, you don't really have to give me a number, but every single one of those games in the seventh inning stretch, Dan McDonald says that the crowd will finish the second stanza of center field, and it absolutely drives me nuts. And I've told Dan this. I'm like, Dan, you drive me nuts when you say that every game. He's never going to stop doing it. He did it as many games as you've called.
I would say probably somewhere between like 65 to 80-ish, conservatively.
Nice.
But it's fun, man. I feel more comfortable every time I get up there. No formal training, just rocking and rolling. Kind of started as like a little passion project, like y'all with this, you know.
Yeah, and you see some of our irreverent fans talking about yelling at you that we're going to Michael's after a win.
Yeah.
You know,
keeps on your toes though, you know.
You always have to deal with those freaks. All right, we're going to take a quick time out, Brennan. We'll thank our sponsors. When we come back, we'll get into it. If you guys have questions, put them in the chat. We'll be back in just a second. We'd like to thank the following partners who make Rage and Review possible. Our title sponsor, the Best Stop Family Market, with locations in Katy and Baytown, Texas, Toledo Bend, Karen Crow, and of course the official location opened in 1986 in Scott. Visit the Best Stop and ask about the Rage and Review tailgate platters. Gulf Coast Bank, title sponsor of the Tailgate Show every Saturday, 3 hours before kickoff. Planet Radio 106.7, Lafayette Roofing, The Yard Goat, Yes Please Branding and Marketing, Old Time Grocery, Stride Safety Solutions, Eat Lafayette brought to you by Lafayette Travel, Ragin' Hydration, and Dr. Brett Venable at Recovery Chiromed. And we'd also like to thank our Patreon sponsors listed here. For only $2 a month, you too could have early access to uncut interviews before they air here on our shows. You also get an exclusive Patreon icon next to your name on Cajun Threads, the official message forum for Rage and Review. If you are interested in joining as a Patreon, visit us at patreon.com/Rage and Review. Thanks to all of our corporate and Patreon sponsors for making this show possible. Thanks once again to the Best Stop. Brendan, you know about the Best Stop, man, growing up in Scompton. I'm sure you stopped by there a couple times in your life, right?
Plenty.
And we got Renee betting a Rowback that Bro would be wearing a Rowback. Hey, are you still a brand ambassador for Rowback?
I sure am.
That's my boy right there.
15 for 15% off. Shameless plug. Shameless plug.
There you go. All right, very good. Well, let's get into it, man. And I'm gonna be quick on my questions I have for you because I want to get to KG and Mike because they're the aficionados when it comes to this stuff. But obviously, the first part of the season, things were working. You want to say things were working well, but you always felt like the offense had to at some point click for us to be successful. Got all the way up to top 25, had some very impressive wins earlier in their season. And you kind of have to take into account other teams were trying to figure themselves out too. Regardless, it was a very impressive start to the season despite our offensive struggles. And now it seems like those struggles continued, and now we're starting to struggle in the pitching world. So we're going to get to the second part of that in a second, but let's talk about the first part of the season. What do you think made the Cajuns so successful, able to get those late inning wins, the walk-off wins, the exciting close nail biters up until the Texas State series?
Well, yeah, I mean, you just said it. It's pitching and defense. Pitching is always ahead of hitting, especially early in the year. And it takes a little while for lineups that haven't played a whole lot together or have a bunch of new pieces. It takes a lot for those guys to really start clicking. And that's across the board. And, you know, we've seen that over the last couple of years with the Cajuns offense. And, you know, I think that's a lot of what we saw offensively early in the season to start, but pitching and defense carried us. And it kept us in those games. You know, the Kansas State series is a perfect example, right? Both of those really close games, one of those games, one swing made the difference. Pitching and defense kept you in it to give you the opportunity to get to those, you know, you scratch a run, you hit a long ball, walk, steal a base, and then Matt Deggs does what Matt Deggs does, and then it's just you steal a couple bases, find a way to scrap a run in. You can't teach teams how to win games like that. So that was very good to see and very optimistic and positive at the beginning of the year. You got to think that, you know, that grit, that willingness to find a way to win is going to they still have it in them. It's going to find a way to play itself, to come back into play at some point later in the season. You just kind of got to get things rolling again collectively as a whole unit.
Do you feel – I feel like his lineups, when I say Deggs' lineups have been a lot more consistent than they were last year. I think he's got a lot more confidence in position players and where they belong. And he's not – the infield, I don't think we've had a switch up in who's playing on the infield in quite a while. Defensively in the outfield, that's kind of been juggling around, but understanding why. Do you think that a lot of the reason for the success early in the season had to do with the early identification of who belongs where and not having to switch that lineup every night?
Oh, I think it helps. You know, for sure as a player, you know, if I come to the yard knowing that I'm going to play center field, for example, I'm going to play a lot more free and easy and loose than I would if I come to the park, you know, saying, well, if I don't get 2 hits today, or if I don't get a hit today, or if I don't get 3 hits today, I might not play tomorrow. So that consistency and that peace of mind from a player standpoint is like, it's paramount. It's almost necessary, you know. And as a coach, you got to find the right formula, I call it. In the infield, Coach Deggs and Coach Tibb and all those guys, they found that formula really early. And that's why we're playing really, really good defense. And we were top 50, top 30 in the country in defense to start the year. And we're still playing really good defense. Again, we're just waiting for that cohesiveness, that chemistry that it comes with, you know, all of those guys that don't have 400 and 500 college at bats under their belt to start to work it together and put that whole puzzle together, offensively, defensively, pitching.
And I'm gonna answer this question for you because you'll probably be one of these two players. But is there anybody in that first part of the season that really stood out and impressed you, kind of caught you off guard and said, "Oh man, where did he come from?" I would say it's either Sawyer Pruitt or Colt Brown, but I'll let you take a stab if it's somebody else that kind of caught you off guard at how good they really are at baseball.
No, for me it was Colt Brown. No, Sawyer Pruitt has had a phenomenal start to the season, and pitching at a college level is way different than pitching at a high school level. He played really good baseball at Live Oak, and can't take that away from him. But you take 2 or 3 steps up when you get into college baseball. And now as a 17, 18-year-old kid, you're playing against a really, really old league now ever since COVID. You're playing against guys that are 4, 5, 6 years older, not only physically, but have gone through 4, 5, 6 years of mental reps. Emotionally, they understand the ebbs and flows of the game. So that, like, coming in as a freshman and being able to have the impact that they have both had, fantastic. Now, Colt Brown, I will say, more as a hitter, because I was a hitter, I understand the adjustment is so much harder. I mean, as a pitcher, you don't face college hitters every day in high school, right? But as a hitter in high school, if you see 88, that's the real deal. It looks like 98. When you get up to college, you see 88 every day, and that's almost the baseline now, for guys to break into the next level in college baseball.
Shit, and good luck against Cody Brash. Cody Brash he's hitting 98 on a Wednesday night.
And he's a unicorn.
Right,
you know what I mean?
Right.
He is top 1% in the world for being able to throw a white ball that hard. But the offensive adjustment and being able to come in and step in and fill in a good catcher role from Jose Torres, which we've had the last couple of years, he offensively and defensively, he's really impressed me.
Brandon, I do want to ask you a question about what your perspective and what you think about our offense. Batting 247, and it looks like since the first game, we've consistently been around 250, give or take. We're dead last in home runs. Our slugging is 372. So we're almost, halfway through the season. So what is your perspective? What is your opinion on how we can take the next step up? And also another question I want to ask you is Deg's approach, which kind of goes in connection with what I'm asking about how do we progress offensively. So I'd like to see what you think of how we get better offensively, and is there anything you could touch on as far as what exactly is Deg's approach?
Yeah, so I'll start with the first one. I think as a team, and this is just what I've seen. So again, standing in the box and seeing 90, 92 miles an hour, 94 miles an hour, it's a whole different ball game than me sitting up in the booth, with my headset on, watching it from an analytical perspective, having my coaching glasses on. I always say this, and I say it more now. If I would have watched more baseball, truly watched more baseball when I was playing, I would have hit 70 points, 100 points higher than what I did. To pull a quote out of Coach Robe's book, the game's scripted, right? And you're going to see the same patterns over and over again. If you can identify those patterns as a hitter, you're going to know what the pitching and what the other team's trying to do to me, and you can formulate a game plan that way. I think from our offense's perspective, I think, again, you're having a bunch of kids that don't have, 300-400 at-bats under their belt, and they're trying to figure out, their swing. They're trying to really hone in and master their craft when they're in the box, technically, mechanically, and how their swing works. They're also trying to play that mind game of like, okay, what do I sit on? What is the pitcher trying to do to me individually? And then when you can put all of those things together collectively, when you can have 1 through 9 feel really comfortable with their swings, on top of knowing, like, going up there with a concentrated plan and sticking to that plan from inning 1, pitch 1 to inning 9 at the end of the game, that's when you see teams really – we saw ULM do that, all weekend. you saw that. And you know, a perk of what I do up in the booth is I get to kind of pick the coach's brains on the other side and ask, you know, what their philosophies are, what their hitting is. And, you know, Coach Pemberton said this week, he said, look, we're not, you know, overcomplicating this thing. We're looking for optimal pitches that, you know, catch most of the fat part of that white plate. And when it comes over there, we're going to hammer it to the best of our ability to that big part to the middle of the field. And you see all of those guys from 1 through 9 on their end, they were bought in. I mean, I mean, that team can really, really swing it. And I think the Cajuns, I think it's just a little bit of inconsistency with that. I think the pitch selection and the plate discipline could be a little bit better. I think they could, you know, hone in on stuff that's crossing over that fat white part of the plate. You see us swinging at a lot of marginal pitches and chasing a little bit, for lack of a better word. So I'd like to see their approach zone in a little bit more. But again, it's just trying to build that chemistry and get 1 through 9 to be bought into that fat white part of the plate and understand what they're trying to do to me, put it all together.
And I guess, you know, from a player's perspective, when you go through a season where you've had it pretty easy the first half, now you're hitting a little bit of adversity, and you're yourself. Let's put you in a player's perspective. You are struggling at the plate. You're trying to get out of it. I know some of it's mental, but do players sometimes try to overcorrect where they, you know, sometimes, and we've had Coach Talbot was one of the hits on him from some of our fans is he tries to just tweak everything a little bit too much at the plate, where guys need to just swing the bat and just hit the ball. You know, do when you start going to a slump as a player, do you start to overthink and overcomplicate things, or do you just keep, you know, trying the same thing over and over again from that point forward?
Oh, you absolutely can. You know, and when you're going well, I mean, you're 10 feet tall and bulletproof. And I mean, I'm left-handed. When you're going well, you feel like you can swing right-handed and catch a barrel just about every time. I mean, it's that, like, the swings are that big, you know, and when you're going through a slump, it's the opposite way. I mean, you feel like you're 2 feet tall and, you know, you hit one on the screws, it happens to go right at people. You know, it just, the game is 80% confidence, and it really is, you know. There's that, again, it's 80% confidence. I would say it's, you know, 15% compete and just throw down when you get in there between the white lines. And then it's 5% mechanical, you know, mechanical mental, you know. But again, it's going up there with a plan, putting in that work all week and all your batting practices, and making sure that, you know, physically I'm doing everything I can to give myself the best chance when I get in the box on Friday night, Saturday night, Sunday afternoon against a guy that, you know, is going to be throwing mid-90s with it going 3 different directions. You can absolutely, you know, get in your own head at times, and that's the times where you just need to simplify it down to the bare basics, hit that reset button, and just try to, when I was always struggling, and I tell the kids that I coach now, when you're struggling or it's just not falling for you, just try to hit the ball on the screws. Try to hit a barrel, and once that ball leaves your barrel, you can't control it anymore. So try to hit a ball in the barrel and just stack those little wins over and over again, and sooner or later it's going to start falling for you. That pendulum's going to swing back the other way.
So, B, I'm glad that you talk about confidence and all of that. And by the way, I want to tell the viewers, me and Brennan get to talk about once a weekend every time we play at home. He is no stranger to Section A and the food we cook on a Saturday. So I get to chop it up with Brennan every now and then. But B, honestly, you know, the Cajuns have lost 6 of the last 8. I personally feel that confidence is a big part of why we're starting to drop games, especially because of the offensive woes. But I do want to piggyback on Mike's last part of the question. We saw it last week, unfortunately, on social media, where there is a large disconnect of the fans and the former players that, you know, the diehard fan, we never been in the batter's box with Matt Deggs. What is the core of the Pack offense philosophy? Like, what is he teaching to you guys as a former player?
So everybody in the Pack offense has a role, and everybody's got a different skill set. And, you know, basically if a pack of wolves is taking down a buffalo, every wolf in that pack has their own specific job. And that's consistent throughout, you know, Matt Deggs' philosophy and lineup. And so, you know, myself, I was never a guy that was going to hit 15 homers a year. It just wasn't in the cards for me. But, you know, I could make sure that, you know, if I don't hit 15 home runs, okay, maybe I see a 10 pitch at bat. I take that from the pitcher. I draw a walk. Okay, now I'm good on the bases and I can create havoc on the base paths. I was really good bat handler. Do I bunt here? Do I hit and run? That was my game. Get on base and set the table for those big guys that come in and do the real damage and where you can score runs and numbers. Again, you had the speedsters that like your Maddox Mandinos of the world, your Noah Lewises of the world today, that you see when those guys get on base, they create just havoc and chaos. They know that they're not going to hit 10, 15 homers a year. And they understand that, but that's not their role. Their role is, okay, let me see if I can get as much information on the pitcher as I can. Can I take 10 pitches from him to maybe shorten his outing from, instead of it will be 7 innings, let's shorten it to maybe he gets out in 5 1/3. And now I start hammering that bullpen, and that bullpen gets shallower and shallower as the weekend goes on. Just stuff like that. Long story short, everybody's got their own specific role and identity within the pack, and we hammer that out every day.
Let me ask you this. So I'm kind of moving ahead to JMU. As a player, as a former player, it's never really comfortable going on the road, when you're trying to get back into winning ball. But at the same time, they're going to be able to take a plane as a team, to travel as a team, to go on the road as a team. Was that, obviously it has to be an enjoyable experience as a ball player to go on the road, especially on a plane with your boys, to go to an opposing ballpark on the East Coast.
Except if you have to sit by my brother, then it turns into a terrible road trip because he's asking you about grades and what you doing, when's your next test. I wouldn't want to sit by him on a plane ever.
Yeah, if you gotta sit by Coach Doe on a road trip, you really messed up.
You better be doing some homework.
You are not watching Netflix if you got to sit on the road on the bus by Coach Doe.
No, but my question to you is this: a weekend like this, if it goes the right way and you have fun with it, this kind of weekend could be a bounce back weekend, right? Is there any experiences you ever had where y'all were kind of on a slump, took a road weekend and had an enjoyable time and just put belt to ass, for lack of a better word?
Yeah, look, winning cures everything, right? Always. But the ebbs and flows of the season, you're going to run into a valley. You're going to go and you're going to slide for, in whatever this case is, 6 out of 7 games. You hope, we talked about that a little bit earlier where we found ways to win early in the season. You hope that, again, you can't teach that. You hope that they take that identity and that mentality and that, thread that they have woven within their team and apply it in a little bit of a different manner and say, hey, look, we've slid the last 6 or 7 games. We've slid the last 2 or 3 weekends, but like the buck's got to stop here. And sometimes getting away from home is like one of the best things you can do. You get really comfortable at being at home. You get a change of scenery. You don't get as long for batting practice. You get kind of uncomfortable. And sometimes when you're at home, everything is so routine. And when you go away from home, you don't have a chance to think about it. Again, your batting practice is shortened to 45 minutes. You show up, you hit batting practice. There's no slack time. You change right after BP. You maybe get yourself a little snack and you get yourself ready to play and you just roll. So sometimes changing a scenery can change the gears back a little bit and get you on a little bit of a more straight and narrow path.
And what makes it nice is that like tonight they probably, it's 8:53, it's almost 9 o'clock. They're probably all in their hotel rooms watching us right now, as they should, because we know everything about Cajuns baseball and strategy and how you're going to win this weekend. So I'm glad they're listening in. But you're right. It is a little bit of fun to get out on the road and sometimes just act goofy and do
from like a locker room perspective. You'll ask anybody that has playing in the games is one of the funnest things that you can do, right? It's what you work so hard for. It's what you go to school there to do. But if you ask an old player what they miss the most, it's the locker room. It's the hotels. It's going to dinner. It's the free time away from the field. It's the camaraderie. It's the friends that you make and the BS that you trade back and forth with each other. That's what you miss the most. And being on the road, being in a hotel room, somebody's always bringing a PlayStation. Somebody's always bringing a deck of cards, so it's just, you find ways to get really, really close, and that can gel you as a group.
I don't know, man. Big Lynn used to play cards with the players in the back of the bus, and I lost so much per diem to that dude, acting like I knew how to play cards against Big Lynn. I never had any money to eat. I was begging everybody. Mike, you want to go next?
Yeah, I want to see your perspective as far as like our freshmen are playing versus our older class. So I want to read you something that Deggs told Kendall Rogers with D1 Baseball. He said, coming off of 3 straight regionals, we tried to make do with 18 to 19 freshmen last season. And I found out pretty quick that that type of formula isn't going to work in modern college baseball. Deggs also said, we had to get older in our recruiting, and we definitely had to get better on the mound. Yet, when we look at our roster on a Friday night, we have Sawyer, Colt, Lim, Noah, Blaze. So that's 5 out of the 9 positions that are freshmen. The portal guys, Cody Brash is obviously probably one of the biggest guy out the portal that's made a huge difference. The older classmen coming out the portal, is it because the freshmen are outplaying them, or they're just not stepping up and adjusting to D1 baseball?
Unfortunately, baseball can be a very result-oriented game. As much as, coaches preach that it shouldn't be, it just is, and it doesn't matter at this level whether you're 18 years old and you're a freshman, or if you're a redshirt senior or a 6th year. If you're playing well, you're going to play. And that's the bare bones of it. At the end of the day, we saw Josh Lim, we saw, Jace LaCava, who in the recent weeks has really provided a spark for the team. Josh Lim although doesn't have, a lot to show for it statistically, his at-bats have been really good. He hit 3 ground balls on Saturday and Sunday combined, over 100 miles an hour, right at the shortstop and second baseman. Switch hits from both sides, played a good outfield. You see Noah Lewis have a handful of hits this weekend. He creates havoc on the bases. He's a great, great outfielder, and he's only going to get better. Ideally, the league as a whole since COVID has gotten a lot older due to the transfer portal and due to, that backlog of people going to junior college to start out. Myself, I was a perfect example, right? So that my senior year was supposed to be 2020. They gave me that year back. Now I'm a 24-year-old senior playing against, a Connor Higgs who's 18 years old, right out of high school. Again, I mentioned it earlier. There's so many factors that older kid is just so much more ahead and so much more advanced in. But at the end of the day, we also had Carson Rockefort as a freshman on that team too. And one day, he's probably going to be in the big leagues. So it doesn't matter how old you are. It doesn't matter what position you play. If you're playing well and you're playing well recently and you wait in your turn and you show up when your number's called, you're going to get the nod.
Yeah, and you've seen it in football. You've seen it in a ton of sports where a freshman comes in and is a leader, and yeah. I think that's what, regardless if you have more maturity the older you are, and that's certainly that helps with the leadership on the team and having guys be cohesive. But you can have a freshman step up. I've seen that, a couple times in my many years of being around the program, that some of the younger guys have stepped up. They may not have been on the field every day, but they had a loud voice in the locker room that people listened to. So I think, man, Mike, you came out there swinging. I was like, damn, dude, he's asking about freshmen. Look what we're doing. But, you got to have the right mix of people, regardless if it's young guys or old guys. I think you have to have the right leadership at the end of the day. One of the things that I thought was funny in some of his comments was he was talking about how hard he was on the players last week, and he thought he had to kind of back off. Now, I know Deggs is a pretty intense guy all the time. He's got a very dry sense of humor, and he's a friendly dude, but he's very intense. Talk to me about what a tough week under Deggs would look like. How is that different from a normal week?
Well, yeah, it's is
a lot of running.
It could be. Yeah, if you're not holding up your end of the bargain, all bets are off. I mean, he's going to get it out of you one way or another. And he mentioned it in one of his interviews this past week. You have to coach teams a little bit differently. Not every team is going to adhere to criticism the same way or adhere to coaching the same way. Some teams are you just kind of give them a little word of encouragement, or you kind of, look at them and say, it's time to get it going. And some teams you gotta run them. And some teams you gotta be a little bit more forceful and intense and get your message across a little bit different way. We got more of the latter end in my tenure there under coach. It was intense, and I remember showing up to the park some days where he had that look in his eye where he didn't need to say much, and you knew that when you got off the bus and you put your cleats on, like it was go time. And there was going to be not a whole lot of leash that he's going to give you. A lot of that is going to be to see how you respond to it. But I mean, you can't, he's a psychologist too. So he's he's a psychologist, but he understands the psychology of coaching and knowing that you can't coach everybody and every team the same way. So he plays and he pulls the strings, and he knows how to get under my skin compared to Cole's, and he's going to coach those guys differently. And that's what he does, and he's really good at it.
As Robe would say, he psychologized them. Robe, a lot of people know Robe from seeing him speak and stuff and as the quiet guy, but let me tell you, he could get pretty fired up too, especially if he had a team of guys. He called them I forgot what the term he used for him, but if they didn't care whether they won or lost, man, he would light them up. And I don't think people are prepared to know that side of Robe. He would get fired up real quick, man. So I remember that.
And he'd fire himself up too.
He'd
get going and he'd get fired. And then, it's the conversation or the speech starts about, how to field the bunt. And then 35 minutes later, you're down a rabbit hole and pulling somebody out of a burning building. It's like, whoa, where did this come from?
And then he'll mispronounce a word like psychologize. And you're just like, how do we get here? KG, go ahead.
Yeah, B. So, perfect segue bringing up Rogue. But we've been talking about the offense for most of this show so far. I want to turn the page to the pitching because that has been the bright spot. I know we kind of touched on it earlier. You talked about Sawyer Pruitt. He's on track to be a freshman All-American. Herman doing Herman things this year, anchors that entire staff with his veteran leadership. And then you got, Ty Roman starting to come back into the fold with 3 good starts, and he had a really good one on Sunday. What do you personally need to see from the pitching staff, maybe even the middle relief, because that's what we're missing right now. What do you need to see from the staff as a whole to get this train back on the track?
Yeah, well, as a staff, it's hard to pitch it so well in the beginning and not have as much run support. It just puts that much pressure on your pitching and your defense to hold it till, a shutout or a 1-run or a 2-run game where, we're not scoring runs in bunches right now. On the back end of it, our starters are holding it together, and they're getting us off to a good start for the most part on the weekends. For me, we know that Sawyer Pruitt's going to go out on Friday, and he's got a track record of getting us off to a good start on a Friday. We know Herm's good for 120 pitches, whether he throws 5 innings or whether he goes to CG. And then Ty Roman has proved himself again to be a really, really good Sunday starter. And I think his stuff matches up really well on the back end of weekend games on Sunday. And then on the back end of games, you got Cody Brash that can give you like kind of playing that LP Langevin role where he can throw, a 2-inning shutout. He can throw a 2-inning back into the game to close it out, or he can stretch it out like we saw this weekend to 4 and 5 innings, which is a huge asset. So on the bookends, you've got really, really good talent and you've got a really good formula there. It's in that middle piece where you're connecting the two that needs to be more consistent in my opinion.
So let me ask you this, and we talked about how electric Cody Brash has been this year. A unicorn is what you called him. The last couple Fridays, though, we haven't seen him be first out the pen. We kind of mentioned it in the post-game show that we did on Sunday after the ULM series. Is that a scheduling problem? Like him maybe throwing too many innings in the midweek is preventing him to throw on Friday night? Is that what you think is happening up to this point? Because I don't remember the last time we've seen Cody Brash on a Friday night.
Yeah, it's possible. It's possible. Stylistically, it could be, and I'm not around those guys all the time. They just might not like the way that he follows up Sawyer Pruitt. It might be a very similar angle that the ball comes out of, just a tick up of velocity. They might not like the look. They might, this weekend or this past week, he threw on Tuesday and he threw 40 pitches on Tuesday. You know that he's gonna throw big innings at some point in the weekend. Do you want to give him, an extra day or two rest and throw him out of the bullpen on Saturday or Sunday? Or, do you want to try and push it again where he's only got, 2 days and change of rest coming back on a Friday night? You don't want to throw those guys so much to where that 96 by the end of the year is now at 92, and now that life is gone. And now that ace in the hole that you have in the back end of the bullpen, that closer stopper, is not as effective, and now your whole pitching staff as a whole is not as effective. Again, I think for me, it's just that middle relief, those guys that can connect the dots. God forbid, one of the 3 starters don't go at least 5 or 6. That that you have confidence in them to throw up zeros in the middle to get it to Brash, or if to get it back to Garrett Carter like we saw early in the season. So that in my opinion, it's just they need to solidify that middle relief type roles. And guys need to step up too. It's not all on the coaches, and all of those guys have gotten a lot of opportunity. Again, it's people on both sides of the baseball need to just step up and say, look, the buck stops here. Enough playing around. Like, I'm coming in, and this is going to be my role from here on out.
Now, I know we're going in 3rd week of conference, or 4th week of conference, right? So we had Texas State, South. So we're on 4th. Well, yeah, fourth week of conference. 2-5. Not great. At what point? I'm pressing the panic button if we don't take 2 out of 3 this weekend. And I know saying pressing the panic button is a very fan term because I know the team will never do that. They're going to keep pushing. But as a fan, I'm pushing the panic button if we don't get 2 out of 3. At what point of the season do we need to see like some progress here? Because it feels like we keep talking about this and we keep doing 3 and 6. We keep doing the same thing over and over again, and we're still not getting that process. What point of the season do we start like pushing the panic button and say, okay, we got to try something different here?
Well, I think every game that you go out there, you want to see some improvement in some category or in some facet, right? You want to see guys throw quality innings. You want to see the offense execute at a higher clip than they were, the game before. So you're always working to be better for every game. Over the season, the course of the season, and it's hard this year because you look at the schedule that we had in non-conference and the success that we had in non-conference, and you can see it, and you're like, oh my, well, the hard work is done, right? And then you go into a grueling 30-game conference schedule, which is a whole different season, a whole different animal in and of itself. And that presents each of its challenges. What you can't do is you can't get swept. You got to avoid a sweep at all costs, because it's not just a sweep to Texas State. It's 3 games that you lose over that 30-game season that's going to play. It's going to have big implications at the end of it, come seeding time for the tournament. Come, if you're around that 40-win mark for possible, an at-large bid. That selection committee is going to take into account all of that. With that being said, I talked to Coach on Sunday, batting practice. They let me hang around a little bit on the field, and so he was saying that 2017 year when he was at Sam Houston, the year that they made it to the Super Regionals and lost to Florida State, they got swept 3 series that year and lost another one. So that's what? 9 games that you get swept, and then you lose. So that's 11 games that they dropped out of a 56-game season right there, and then they make it to the Super Regional. So you look at it in terms of like a scheduling perspective where you want to try to get to that 40-win mark, 42-win mark when it's all said and done. But at the end of the day, you really want to be playing your best baseball the last 2 to 3 weeks of the season, going into the conference tournament, hopefully, winning the conference tournament, not having to worry about giving yourself an at-large bid. But that's that last 2-3 weeks of the season is when you really want to start playing your best.
And I want to piggyback on that, because how do you you obviously want to play your very best towards the end, right? The conference tournament, try to get into a regional. Offensively, we're almost last in every stat in the Sun Belt, and nationally, we're at the very bottom statistically with our hitting. How do you keep the morale up offensively? And are these players making adjustments, or do they just need more reps?
Well, you're constantly making adjustments. I mean, pitch by pitch, you're making an adjustment. And so those adjustments never stop. Obviously more reps help, and the more comfortable you are in the box it's going to help. The more that you formulate a plan for what the pitcher is trying to do to you, along with, the work that you put in throughout the week and how your swing's feeling, knowing that one day my swing is playing better at the bottom of the zone, another day is going to play better at the top of the zone. If I've got a guy that's like a Sawyer Pruitt that's got really good ride on that fastball that he's going to get swing and miss at the top of the zone with the heater, then, I'm probably going to try and, hunt one down around the knee. Just all of those things go into your plan on when you go up to the plate. And more reps, again, you get more comfortable. Ideally you get all 1 through 9 of those guys on the same page. You get all of those guys feeling well and feeling healthy and feeling like they're in a groove and grooving their swing. And then you put it all together with and I've said it a couple times, but that's just the formula. You get all those 1 through 9 guys rolling together, and that's the formula. And every team's different. Some teams, come out of the gates like we saw Southern Miss, like for the first 12 games looked like they couldn't lose. Doesn't matter who they played. And they had probably, 20 home runs throughout the first 2 weeks of the season as a group. They've slid a little bit over the last couple of weeks. They haven't been as effective and as successful as they had. And I'm just using them as an example because they came out of the gate so hot. But it doesn't matter whether you win all your games on the front end and lose them on the back, or lose all your games on the front and win them on the back. As long as you're playing well at the end of the season, really that's all that matters. The Sun Belt's going to be probably a 2, maybe a 3 bid league this year. And I mean, you can about imagine who the 2 front runners are right now. It's a matter of, the tide raises all ships, right? Arkansas State's a really good team this year. ULM's a really good team this year. Troy's hasn't lived.
Texas State is hitting the shit out of the ball, like all of a sudden out of nowhere.
South Al is going to be really competitive. I mean, they were a really competitive physical team. Like the Sun Belt's a great league, and so to win 40 games over the season in a 30-game Sun Belt league, it's no small feat, So I know I'm kind of rambling a little bit, but it's all, it's all kind of all encompassing. 42 wins, or you play well, the last 2 weeks of the season, try to put yourself in the best spot to hit a heater going into Memorial Day into the conference tournament.
Well, if you want to talk about rambling, just watch more of these shows, man. KG gets on a roll, man, on something. You ain't stopping him. And you don't try to, because he's going to beat your ass if you try.
I'm surprised you brought my name up and not Jerry. I'm not trying to throw a stray at Jerry, but man, that's the king rambler right
Jerry
there.
would ask you 2 questions and the follow-up question all in one question before he got to the question.
And then he would ask you what high school you went to.
And then I ask you what high school you went to. Yeah.
B, let me ask you something before we get off, and this is going to be a quick one. Are you surprised at how well – now, take it with a grain of salt. We've lost 6 of the last 8. But are you surprised with how well we started, being that the team is, made up of freshmen and transfers, people that have not played together, going forward? Because, like you mentioned, the Sun Belt's a strong it's a strong conference because most of these teams have players that have played together for so long, that have been a cohesive unit for so long. The Cajuns this year are built up of freshmen and transfers, and we started 16-5. So, yeah, out the gate, I'm going to speak personally. I was very surprised of how well we started because it was a unit that was kind of thrown together, thrown in the fire, and produced. I'm just hoping, I guess, that maybe we keep trying new people, especially in the outfield. I'm hoping that somebody like a Josh Lim or Jay Slakava could continue to be a staple in this lineup, because we do need some staples on the offensive side to get something kick-started. And it can't just be held together by Lee Amadei and Colt Brown all season long.
Yeah, and I think if your coach, like, you're looking for somebody in the locker room right now to grab the bull by the horns and say, like, it's wide open. You know what I mean? Like, it's not like we're having like crazy success, 1 through 9. Lee's having a good year. Colt's having a good year. And then, everybody else is kind of, you don't know what you're going to get that day. So again, Rigo gives you some experience at second base. He's a 6-year guy. hit a bunch of homers last year at William Carey. Markle is finally, you can kind of start to see, him getting a little bit more comfortable. He's got, a full season under his belt now. I say that, 3/4 of a season. He had that hand injury last year. But like even him, he's a guy that, he came here from Ole Miss for a reason. He didn't play a whole lot. So although he played with higher competition in the SEC, doesn't mean that he got that amount of reps to be able to say, like, I've got 150, 200 at-bats in the SEC where it's going to easily translate over. Like when I came back, same thing with me. I didn't play as much as you want to, so you don't get the reps, and you start, those little bad habits start to creep in, and it takes a little while to reverse those habits in the cage and to be able to be repeatable and have good mechanics and good work in the cage and practice. Then having to apply that into a game situation is a whole different animal. And so you need a little bit of time to be able to get and to understand how my swing and how my preparation applies into a game situation. And again, we were lucky and fortunate that we came out of the gate so hot, and we have that intrinsically in us. But those guys, just as they get more at bats, they're going to get more comfortable and gel more together. I think really that's just what you're seeing. You're seeing a whole group of a lineup across the board, 1 through 9, outside of Rigo and Lee, that just haven't had a whole lot of experience, facing college pitching over the course of a 56-game season. That's my opinion. Totally my opinion.
So, B, I'm actually swap off right here. Lane's in the background. He's been producing, but he does have a pretty good question he wants to ask you about some of the differences in coaching philosophy. So I'm going to bring him on right now.
What's up, Lane?
Brennan, quick question for you. You played under Robe.
Yeah, you're freezing. Hold on.
What? How do you feel the difference in philosophies was? Do you feel like it was tougher to play under one versus the other?
No, not tougher to play under one than the other. It's just totally different. Robe was totally pitching and defense, and Deggs is totally, offense first, and then pitching and defense is 1A, 1B. But a super emphasis on offense, super emphasis on pitching. At this level, pitching makes the world go round. So you've got to have good starters. You've got to have a good staff, which we have, and we've proven that. Again, coach just has that super offensive mindset that he's going to coach his team, and he's going to run his offense a lot differently than Coach Robe did with a super pitching mindset.
Going off of that, did you feel like one coach was like more aggressive towards obviously Deggs was more aggressive towards the offense, but like, do you feel like coaching wise, one was more aggressive overall versus the other?
No, and I think when you have as much experience as both of those guys do at the helm of a program, you become a game manager, and you know when to push the right buttons, or you think you know when to push the right buttons. You have an educated guess as to do what when. Two totally different ways of going about that what and when. Again, Rowe pitching and Deggs more on the offensive side. But, I think you look at I think that's what made that Rowe Deggs marriage so good, is that they were both the yin to each other's yang. And one was super cerebral on offense, and one was super cerebral on pitching and defense. And you had these two masterminds just going together. But Deggs is, when we saw it, what was that, the 22-23 year, when, those couple regionals in a row where you got the Marshocks and the Debos and the Heath Hoods, and the TRs of the world just running rampant around the bases, stealing 140 bags a year, whatever it is. And so you look at that as being aggressive, which it absolutely is. But then you look at like the old, pitching days of Robe, and it's like that guy was an assassin in the way that he called pitches and the way that he managed a game. And so, again, to answer your question, I don't think one is more aggressive than the other. I think they have two different views of aggression, and were extremely, extremely aggressive in their lane.
I definitely agree with that. We're going to get to the fun part now. We got questions from the other world. Raging Cajun 77 asking, how do you feel about the TrackMan? Now, I'm not sure if he means having access to the TrackMan, but I'm assuming he probably means like as a whole, as a player, former player. You know, how would you have handled having the TrackMan back in the day? Do you think that's a good thing for players to see and have access to? Are there negatives? Like, how does that factor into things?
I think it's good from a data perspective, and I think it's good to be used as a coaching tool. I am personally a fan of the human element of baseball. I like the gamesmanship and the nuances of, getting the umpires on your good side, understanding that you can have a conversation with those guys in the box and asking him as the game goes on. We talked about adjustments a little bit earlier. He calls a ball, at the bottom of the zone that you thought might have been a little bit low. You ask him, hey, is that the lowest you're going to go? Or are you going to go any lower? And you start to understand and you play that mind game and start putting this puzzle piece together, or put this puzzle together of that human element of the game that is going to change, maybe 2 or 3 times a weekend, So I like it as a tool, but I like the human element too.
Dan definitely likes it. He asks that quite a bit. He loves using his. In fact, he's got his own Twitter now, Dan's TrackMan. It gives updates through the game as well. So that's a lot of fun to watch. Talk about how wild
it makes me smart knowing that I can look at the TrackMan and say, the ball left at 33-degree launch angle coming off at 102 miles. It makes me sound a lot smarter than what I really am. So I like it now on that end.
I think we need a Brendan Bro burner. Somebody out there, get it going. Raging Burners, let's go.
Let it rip.
All right, Brendan, how about how wild the Teague was from the booth when the pitcher came in, was throwing balls in the dirt, and the crowd was going wild every warm-up pitch. I can't remember what game that was, but I do remember hearing it on TV, and the Teague was loud. Yeah,
I'm trying to remember. It was around that. It was around that win streak. I don't know if it was the LSU game. I think it was. It was either that Kansas State game.
I think it was a Kansas State game, but if Caswell wouldn't ask such a broad question and give us details, man.
Yeah, it was. Look, it was something that it was a little bit of wrinkle that I hadn't seen in a long time, and to have the fans are what makes that place what it is. No questions about it. And talking to, again, those opposing coaches every time that they come in, they know that this place is not a run-of-the-mill mid-major atmosphere. I can't tell you how many times, like Coach Eric Newman at San Diego State intentionally put us on their schedule because they knew that it was going to be the closest thing to a postseason atmosphere to start out the season. And he wanted his team to get experience. I hear that all the time, so the fan engagement, man, and even being from the player side, it makes you go. Again, the season is 60 games, and right about now, games 30, you're getting into the grind and your body's hurting, and you wake up and something else is sore and hurts every day. And the fans, once you get out there, dude, it's the adrenaline rush, and it's what pushes you through to game 50 to 56, where now you're making a postseason push, and it's just the best time of the year. So the fans are, it's what sets this place apart. It really does.
These guys really want you to go to Michael's, man. Let's see. JP had a question. No, it wasn't this, but JP did ask, could you get a hit off of him?
Who's that?
JP Taberski?
I think JP knows the answer to that question.
Okay, we're gonna leave it at that. If you're BB, you're a senior, you're a 15th year senior this year. Players are watching, hopefully tonight, because what else are they gonna do in the middle of nowhere in Virginia? Okay, so they're assuming they're watching. All right, you're your 15th year senior. Give them a pep talk. Almost halfway through the season, things are not going their way. What would you say as a leader of the team to get them going in the right direction?
That we still got a chance to turn this thing around. We started out, and what put us on track was a stretch of 10 games. We got a bunch more than 10 games left. It's a very manageable schedule. It's not going to get any easier, but again, we faced some big dogs early. and we're going to face some big dogs late. But we're going to take it one game at a time. We're going to pitch it one pitch at a time, and we're going to give it everything that we got and empty the tank every night. And at the end of the day, we'll sleep knowing that we let it all out there, and then we'll wake up again tomorrow and
That's
do
what
the
I'm
same
talking
thing
about,
over
baby.
again.
Go ahead, KG.
So Lane's in the background wanted me to ask you this question. It's a two-part question.
Well, actually, I was going to re-ask it a different way, KG. Can I ask it a different way?
Hey, you're the host by all means, my man.
Because he asked what your favorite moment in the Teague was as a player and as a broadcaster, but I'm going to say I wanted a one-part question because I saw you grow up at the Teague when your dad would take you, and I think he'd come in the press box and we'd give high fives and all that, till, your playing career now as a coach, as a color commentator. What is your favorite moment that sticks out when you think of the Teague, a big moment that you were there for out of all those times as a kid, as a broadcaster, as a player? What is that one memory that sticks out to you?
I don't know if I can single it down to one. I think my journey throughout that, and I told Coach this the other day, the Teague's like a home away from home for me, because you put, not only as a player, you put so much time and effort, blood, sweat, and tears into it. But, also as a fan coming up and that was my first taste of baseball. And, watching those guys, like the first games that I can remember, Jonathan Lucroy was playing, Scott Hawkins was playing. I saw Scott Hawkins about an hour ago. And what makes it cool, not only to see those guys play, to be a part of it as a bat boy, in 4th and 5th grade, but being able to have the relationship and the fraternity and the camaraderie with those guys now, going through starting where I've started and becoming a part of that fraternity itself. That's the coolest thing for me in the world. So I can't narrow it down to one, but that's just being a part of it all, knowing from that journey where I started, all encompassing to where I'm at now. It's the coolest thing in the world.
I thought for sure it would have involved T-Mick, man. I'll never forget.
But T-Mick's a part of that journey,
bro.
T-Mick's a part of that journey.
One of my favorite moments of T-Mick of all time, it was a conference tournament. My dude was red because he was all sunburned. He was standing on the side. He worked every game, and he was standing there on the side in the old Teague where you had that little gate. And he was standing like that, and a foul ball just knocked him right in the stomach. And my dude didn't even flinch. He picked up the ball and threw it back. He just went on there. And when we looked at the end of the game, we saw he had the big old, I think you could see the threads on his stomach. But my boy T-Mick was a big part of a lot of memories for me too at the Teague. That dude,
legend, man. He's a legend.
Else.
You know what? And I lie. I am gonna narrow it down to one.
There you go.
One moment for me. It was my senior year. It was my last year, and I hit a homer against LSU in the Tuesday night game. It's the furthest ball I've ever hit. It was the only ball that I've ever had a chance to, we'll call it, pimp it. And I didn't even pimp it, but it was enough where I was like, oh yeah, that thing's going. It's always sweet to hit a homer against your former team. So if I had to pick a moment, that would be it. But I'm going to still stick with my answer of becoming a part of that fraternity of guys that paved the way for all of us.
There you go. My brother says my boy B. So he says, what's up from Virginia? He traveled with the team this week. Hey man, appreciate you coming on, dude. It's been a lot of fun. We got to do this more often, man. It's always good to talk with you, and maybe we'll do this again once we get out of the slump and start talking about things like conference tournaments and regionals. Maybe we have you back on here and we see what we can do then.
Man, I would love that. Anytime you need. I thank you so much for having me. I had a blast.
All right, and tell Dan we're still putting dimes in the jukebox for him, baby. We're keeping track.
We need to put more dimes in the jukebox.
A lot more dimes. All right, brother. Take it easy. Have a wonderful Easter weekend, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you, guys.
See you, bud. That was a lot of fun, man. Always love having BB on the show. I'll let you guys give final thoughts, and then we actually have to do a preview of JMU. I know that went a little bit longer than we expected, but again, how are you going to cut off a conversation like that? That's a lot of fun. KG, any final thoughts before we move on?
No, like I mentioned when I got to ask him early on, I get to talk to Brennan, luckily for me, every other week. So he's always a pleasure to talk to, pick his brain. I've been knowing Brennan for a long, long time. We're relatively in the same, age group. So, but no, man, I would love to have him on the show more. With him being a color guy, he sees things from a different angle. And it's weird because you get that former player aspect, you get that color commentary aspect. the technical side, all of it. So, yeah, love Brennan, love what he brings to the show, and hopefully we get to talk with him more in the future.
Now I'm with Demontre. We need Cooper Hawkins committed to Southern Miss. That pisses me off. Like, how are we going to have former players' kids committing to Hattiesburg of all places? We got to talk about this. We need to revisit this. Scott, come on, man. Come on, man. That's all I got to say. I don't want to be tampering or anything like that. Boys, let's go ahead and move on to preview the James Madison Dukes. Before we get to that, I do want to say I had a great chance to speak with the voice of the Dukes, Dave Riggert. Both Lane and I had a chance to sit with him for about an hour today. It was kind of the same thing. We were going to make it a quick interview, hopefully get some of it on tonight, but it went too long. But we go in deep with baseball. We talk about, almost said Maggard, but Napier going over to James Madison, what that transitions look like. He talked a little bit about their spring practices in football. So a lot going on there that we talked about. We kind of went all over the world with him, talked about if there's going to be a breakaway in Division I between FBS and the G5s and the P4, whatever it is now. So we'll have that on tomorrow afternoon at 3 o'clock. It's a couple hours before we play JMU. It's not going to interfere with the pregame stuff. So I think 3 o'clock tomorrow afternoon is a pretty good time to air that tomorrow. Look forward to showing you guys that conversation with the voice of the Dukes. But take it away, KG. Talk to us about what to expect against James Madison. They, in my opinion, are a lot like us, where they're struggling with pitching a little bit. Their ERA is way higher, but they've really struggled with pitching lately. Their hitting has been very serviceable through the front half of the season. I think if they have an advantage, it's going to be offensively.
Yeah, I mean, well, let's get to the to the breakdown of it, Jay. They're going to come in 13-14 overall and 4-5 in the Sun Belt. Weirdly enough, on paper, they're a lot like Monroe was coming in a lot of ways outside of the offense. They're not as offensively talented as Monroe was. But this past weekend, they did play at Arkansas State and dropped 2 of 3. We know what the Red Wolves can do. We know what Mike Silva's building up over there. I'll talk about it because we're getting to that point in the year where it matters. Their RPI coming in is 122, and their strength of schedule tied with that RPI is 100. I will talk about their starters real quick. I'm expecting to see Cameron Aycock at the designated hitter position, Ike Schmidley in right field, Clay Thompson in center, Kyle Langley in left field, Jack Guerrero at third, Reese Moody at second base, Wyatt Campbell at first base, Josiah Seguin at short, Ben Barrow at catcher, and we may also see Jack Canizero fill in some designated, pinch hitting spots as well. You guys know that I love comparison stats. I'll dive right into it. They come in, the Dukes come in hitting 291 as a team. For comparison, the Cajuns are hitting 247. They have scored 181 runs to this point. The Cajuns have scored 155. They have 251 hits. Cajuns have 229. Home runs, they've hit 23. Cajuns have hit 18. So this is the first team that we've seen in the past couple weeks, 2 or 3 weeks, that isn't drastically out-homering us, which is actually a good thing with the amount of home runs that we've given up to this point. RBIs to this point, the Dukes have hit 164. Cajuns are sitting at 136. Slugging percentage, JMU's got a 458. Cajuns are sitting at 372. Walks, the Dukes have drawn 98 walks. Cajuns have drawn 112, so a little bit better right there for the Cajuns. Strikeouts to this point, the Dukes have struck out 180 times as a team. The Cajuns a tick higher than that at 218. We got to get that number down. That's something that we should have asked about, is the strikeout rate. It's kind of getting crazy. I think against McNeese, we had 9 strikeouts in that game against Southland midweek pitching. Not great. On-base percentage, JMU has a 384. Cajuns have a 357. And lastly, and this was the most eye-popping stat for me, the Dukes have stolen 82 bases to this point. The Cajuns have stolen 54. So they are an absolute threat 1 through 9 on stealing a bag if you let them on base. Couple of team leaders. Cameron Aycock, the designated hitter, is leading the team in qualified hitting with 352 batting average. Ike Schmidley, the right fielder, leads the team with 33 hits. Josiah Seguin, who is an unqualified hitter, I guess he doesn't have enough at-bats. If he did, he would be leading the team in batting average because he has a 366. But even as an unqualified hitter, he leads the team in home runs with 6 and RBIs with 22. And lastly, Reese Moody, their second baseman, leads the team in steals with 14. So that's a little bit of a look of their offense. Like I said, they're not going to light the world on fire by hitting the long ball, which, for us, I'm a very plainly say
there.
thank God. Yeah, thank God. But still, they can make you pay in other ways. Like I mentioned, they walk, they steal, they create havoc on the base paths. They do a lot of things that we try to do in this Matt Deggs era offense. So no, I'm looking forward to see the matchup. I just hope that the boys, get off the plane, show up to the ballpark, and they're ready to go.
I think what's more impressive about the 82 steals is they've only been caught 11 times. I think we get caught 11 times a weekend because of bad base running. So very impressive. And again, one of the things that Dave and I talk about on the interview that will air tomorrow at 3 is he came out saying, hey, we're not going to hit the ball all over the park, but we will, hit a gapper, get a guy to second, and then nickel and dime his way home. I asked him if it's frustrating for him the way their coach is aggressive, and I'll let you stay tuned tomorrow for his answer on that. But a lot like the Cajuns, like you said, we want to do a lot of what James Madison does successfully. And I think that the scary part for me, Mike, and I'll go to you next, is the scary part for me is the fact that they do make contact and they are chaotic on the base paths and they can hit the ball a little bit better than us. And their pitching and is bad. And I know we've looked at stats and we've talked, they have a high ERA, but no, these guys have really struggled on the mound. We got to take advantage of that this weekend, man. If there's any weekend that's got to be a get right week for the boys, it's to take advantage. Their starting pitchers have had trouble getting out of the 5th inning, getting out of the 4th inning, and that forces their middle relief to come in, and they've not been great, and they face a lot of the same ills as us. So I'm confident in Sawyer going in against this lineup on Friday, but we have got to get something done against pitching that we should have an edge on. Your thoughts, Mike?
I agree. This is a must series win. It's a must. It's a hands down. It's a must. But I also think this is a good stepping stone series for what we're about to get into. So I really think this is a weekend for our hitters to really step up off of weaker pitchers, but also we have weak hitting. So if this is a great weekend for us to have just a confidence builder for our hitters to start swinging the bat, get things rolling, JMU would be a good stepping stone because we're going into Southern Miss, Troy, Arkansas State. Those are going to be brutal series coming up. So I think this is a good stepping stone just to reset, get the ball rolling again, because like Brennan said, this is far from over. We have a chance to make a run. We have a chance to put a lot of wins on the board and try to get a regional. But the way we've been playing the last couple of weeks, we kind of, kicking ourselves in the butt. But I think JMU is a really good series to just start fresh and get the ball rolling.
Well, it's really one game at a time. And again, as we've said the last few weeks, Jerry, it starts on Friday. We've got to find a way to get a Friday win, something that has eluded us for the past several weeks throughout the entire season. Just getting off to a win on Friday night lessens the pressure the rest of the weekend. Guys can play a little bit looser. They're not pressing every at-bat to try to make something happen so that we can salvage one win on the weekend. I think Friday's going to be crucial, as it was last week, and you saw what happened when we lost on Friday.
Well, it's a morale boost for one. The last couple of weeks we haven't been able to win on Friday nights. I think the last time we won on Friday night was against DBU almost a month ago now. And, the Achilles heel that we have right now is we not only don't perform well on Friday nights, but we play our worst game on Friday night because we can't hit Friday night pitching. We can't, we maximize the potential of our pitchers, especially Sawyer. And again, like you said, you're playing catch up on Saturday and Sunday. So, I guess this week it's Thursday night, right? Because our first game's tomorrow. But to your point, Nick, I think the main thing is look, we're 2-6 in the last 8 games, and you're going on the road to a team that swept you 3 years ago, the last time you went up there. And that year we had a regional team. So I think the best way to just boost our morale is to win tomorrow night and do it in a way that do it in a way that we haven't been able to do it. Hit your way to score runs. Earn your way on base. Don't get freebies. Like don't expect to be given freebies. Earn your way for everything that you get. And I think if you do that, I really do think that can make a big attitude adjustment. You know, Brandon made a comment earlier, you know, when it comes to the approach you take. You know, I'm glad he brought it up about starting, right? If you go in and you're worried that if I strike out so many times or make so many errors, I'm going to get benched. These players need to go in without that attitude and just go in with just pure finesse and just have fun. Enjoy yourself, enjoy the trip with your boys, and just go play loose baseball. You know, it's one thing to say fast, hard, and loose. Tomorrow night, just be loose with nothing to lose.
Well, the game tomorrow night gets started, as you said, on Thursday, 5 p.m. Central, so be sure to be ready to watch that stream. And if you're traveling to the area to watch the game, I think somebody earlier said this might be the only game that we don't outnumber the other fans. Well, JMU does not draw well in baseball whatsoever. In talking to Dave, he said they're really trying to drum up some support there. But if a few fans show up, we may just outnumber them. So if you're showing up there, Dave will be on the call on the radio side. But the reason, and I'm glad you said Thursday, because it's so easy to get it confused because we're used to Friday, Saturday, Sunday. But I want to talk, and I want KG to take this one away. You know, one of the big reasons that we play in the Sun Belt on Thursday is because of our former head coach, Tony Robichaux. And KG, I know that one's special for you. You mentioned it today, and I said you're probably better talking about that story than I am. So, you know, it really is because of him that we don't play on Easter Sunday anymore.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, yeah, it was special to me. I woke up this morning, and, you know, when it's funny that you say it like that, because Cajuns baseball and, you know, the Easter holiday kind of fell into like a synonymous topic because, yeah, since the 2000s, Robe fought so hard to move those weekend series off of the Sunday for Easter because he didn't understand why, you know, Jesus Christ, who gave up his life for us, why we couldn't give up a day for him. And, you know, he got pushback from, you know, coaches around the league through, you know, the 2000s, the 2010s. But he finally got it passed in 2015. And for the first time in 2016, the entire league moved to a Thursday, Friday, Saturday series. And I want to read some quotes from him. Tim Buckley did a really good job back in 2016 covering him. And Robichaux said this, and these are direct quotes. I want to read two passages. He said, "The biggest worry of the league for some of the coaches was that it would cost a little extra money and you would miss an extra day of class for the player athletes. But like I tried to tell them," I'm speaking as Robe, "like I tried to tell them, the guy you're doing it for died for you. I don't understand why a day of class or a little bit of cash is that important to you. Finally, though, we got it pushed through." He also said there's always been somebody that didn't want it, meaning the vote, that went against the vote. "I don't know what they're going to tell God when they face him." And he asked him the question, why did you vote against, you know, playing baseball on Easter Sunday? He said, "But I hope when they get there, they have a good answer." So you obviously know what it meant to Robe to get it moved off of Easter Sunday, as it does for all of us. I mean, personally, Easter Sunday at my house, at my parents' house, is a big deal to us. We take it very seriously as somebody that goes to church every Sunday. So, yeah, I'm glad that we were able to kind of, you know, bring Robe into this and talk about it and give him his moment, because he certainly deserved it for the work that he put into getting the Sun Belt to approve getting it moved. And we certainly miss Robe each and every day at the ballpark. If you walk around, he's all over the place, as he should be, especially if you walk to the front of the ballpark. But especially this time of year around Easter, you get to start thinking about him and his philosophies and how that ties into how much of a devout Catholic he was and how much it meant to him to turn these players into men of God. So, again, we miss Robe, love Robe, and be thinking about him this weekend as I watch Cajuns baseball.
And I got to say, not that he wasn't always a holy man, but he, you know, early in his career, because I knew him when he was 3 years on the job to when he passed away, there was a lot of transformation in his life as well that really came out during those years. And you saw a lot of it as he got older and more wise and more mature. So certainly appreciate that story. And, you know, one of the things Robe would love talking about is pitchers. We haven't talked about pitching yet, KG. So I'll let you take it away on the JMU pitching situation. And I think we pretty much know who's going to start for us this weekend.
Yeah. So we got the Cajuns down pack. You're going to see, I mean, at least unless something crazy happens, you're going to see Sawyer, Herman, and Ty Roman. Almost said JR. That's how much I'm used to him saying him on Sundays. But you'll see Ty Roman. But no, I do want to talk about, you know, their starters and some of the guys coming out of their bullpen. You know, JMU, a team that we don't play all that often. We're not that familiar with on Friday. And I did use their Arkansas State series as basically a baseline for what we're going to see against the Cajuns. On Friday, they're going to throw Max Cool. He has a 6.92 ERA and an 0-1 record. On Saturday, we should see Luke Alexander, a 7.99 ERA and a 3-1 record. And then on Sunday, they have Tyler Lutz with a 5.06 ERA and an 0-3 record. I'm going to talk about a couple of guys that we'll see out of their bullpen, a couple of guys with a lot of appearances and a lot of innings. One more note I want to make, though, and maybe, Mike, you might have saw this because you're a stat nerd like I am. Nick, they have 0 qualified pitchers on their entire roster. And that's not something we see often. Now, I think the Cajuns have 4, maybe even 5. This is a team that has 0. So you know this is a team that has a lot of appearances, but not necessarily a lot of innings. Maybe a lot of guys that have to get pulled mid-game if they're not having a good outing. But let's get to the bullpen. I'm expected to see Jaden Kinsler first out the pen. He has 11 appearances to this point with 26 innings thrown. He has a 5.19 ERA. Funny enough, he leads the team in wins. He has a 4-0 record out the bullpen. He has 0 starts, which makes that even more funny. Secondly, you'll see Patrick Bauer, 9 appearances to this point. He does have 5 starts, 22.1 innings pitched. He has 5.64 ERA and a 1-2 record. And then lastly, we'll see Holden McKinney, somewhere out the pen as well. 10 appearances to this point, 1 start, 17 innings pitched. He has a 7.41 ERA and an 0-1 record. But their closer, the guy that they're going to bring in as a stopper, is going to be Luke McGrath. He has 11 appearances this season, only 12.2 innings pitched, but he does have 4 saves with a 5.68 ERA. So like you said, overall, they're going to come into this game throwing 7.25 ERA as an entire staff, which is really, really bad. I want to say bottom 250 in the country. For comparison, the Cajuns now are throwing a 4.86 ERA. Going to keep going down the line. Team whip for JMU is a 1.74. Cajuns team whip is a 1.29. Hits given up for JMU is 251. Hits given up for the Cajuns, 230. Earned runs given up for JMU is 181 to this point. Cajuns have only given up 142. Walks to this point, JMU has allowed 139 walks to this point. The Cajuns have only allowed 110. Very big difference. I think that's something that the Cajuns hitters will take advantage of this weekend, is drawing walks. I think that's going to be a big part of our offense and something to look forward to. Strikeouts. 216 for the Dukes. This is a big, staggering difference. The Cajuns have struck out 280 to this point. So that's the biggest, difference between our staff and theirs, other than the team ERA, is the strikeouts and the punch-outs that we have, versus them. Home runs given up, they've given up 31. Cajuns have given up 47. And if my homework serves me right, we are number 1 in the country in home runs allowed, which that is never anything you want to lead in. And then lastly, batting average against, which I think is a very underrated stat. The Dukes have a 285 batting average against the Cajuns, still hanging good at 234. So that's a little bit of a look of their pitching staff and what we can expect for this weekend. But like I said, the most eye-popping number, Nick, and you said it a couple times, is that team ERA sitting at 7.25. That is really, really bad. And hopefully the Cajuns hitters can take the next step, whether it's drawing a walk or getting a hit. We have to see this offense come to life. This is absolutely a must-win series. You got to take 2 of 3, because if you lose this one and you fall even deeper into the standings, kind of like Brennan mentioned earlier in the show, you don't want to dig that hole too deep, because when you get later in the season, you're going to be talking about having to win the tournament just to get into the regional. We don't want to waste this 16-5 lead that we came out. You don't want to blow away that overall record.
Yeah, and a couple of comments that people are making about we've not done anything about bad teams pitching against ULM. Look, I totally agree with you 100%. And I told that to Dave. He said, we don't hit the long ball. And I'm like, well, we can't stop people from hitting the long ball. So something's got to give this weekend. I do think the matchup is a little bit better on the offensive side for JMU. Like, they're serviceable. They're middle of the pack Sun Belt. I understand that we're bottom of the Sun Belt, but they're not coming in like a Texas State or like a ULM. I thought, retrospectively looking back, and Josh said this ahead of time, I didn't feel like going into ULM it was going to be a good situation. I felt better against Texas State. That was proven wrong. I just think the matchup is a little bit more tilted towards us this weekend, but I'm not talking about like by a whole lot, because we still got to show up. We've got to be disciplined at the plate. As BB was talking about, and I know Josh hates when we say the approach, but the approach at the plate and making sure that you're not sitting there standing at a fastball right down the middle after swinging at two balls, 5 inches off the plate. We just got to be better offensively, and we've got to be smarter at the plate in those situations. And I think also the one thing that concerns me that we saw against McNeese State this week is that you saw a couple of errors that were very un-Cajun-like. And with a team that likes to do the chaos thing like we do, we can't let them outplay us at our own game. And that's what JMU is going to try to do. They're going to try to beat us at our own game, and we've got to be very disciplined in our fielding. And I don't just mean not make errors. I'm talking about being smart with a fielder's choice and where you go with the ball. I thought we did that pretty well this weekend, but against McNeese State, not so well. So yes, I agree with you, and I agree with those who are saying that the other teams have an inflated ERA. We didn't do too well against them. I just think once we went down big, it was hard for us to climb back. And you even think about, let's talk about McNeese State. We went down 10-1. The only reason we got back in that game was because yet again this season, we took a bunch of walks, we let them give us runs, and we walked a bunch of guys in. That's the only reason we got back into the game whatsoever. We can't rely on that this weekend. I think we've got to manufacture runs, and we can't let JMU beat us at our own game. I think that's going to be key to the weekend.
No, and I'm glad you brought up McNeese. I didn't want the show to end without us touching on that. I really don't want to talk about it, but
no,
yeah, I know
ahead.
You don't. But I mean,
we do need to.
Right. If we're talking about the offense, and I had it right here, we did score 6 runs in that, in the 7th inning to cut the lead from 10-1 to 10-7. But like you just said, in that inning, guys, 6 walks, 1 hit batter, 1 error, and only 1 hit, which was Lee Amadei in the second at bat of the inning. So out of all 6 runs that were scored, we only had 1 hit. So yeah, that's in a situation like that. Yes, you're drawing walks. That's part of it. But then again, that's more of the other team gifting you that rather than you earning it. If that makes sense. And I don't want to make it sound like,
which has won games for us several times this season in that streak that we went on for a while.
Right, but I'm glad you brought it up, and I just wanted to make sure that people that anybody who didn't actually do the homework on that big inning, did the breakdown. There was 1 hit in that inning. That is eye-opening. So. Yeah, we have to do much better this weekend, and I know, Bryce Tickle feels very strongly about how we didn't hit against ULM. I completely understand, brother. For me, I've been saying it all season long, the home and road splits for the Cajuns. I was the first person to put my hand up and say, I trust this pitching staff at home. The Teague is, a much more pitcher-friendly ballpark. It doesn't matter where we pitch anymore. It seems like we're going to give up home runs. What was it, 4 home runs that we gave up last weekend against ULM? Now, I think the matchup going forward is the team we playing that much better at hitting the long ball than us? And the answer this weekend is no. On paper, they're only a 5 home run better team than we are, right? So I think this weekend plays a lot better into our hands as far as matchup-wise. Now, granted, you still have to go on the road in the Sun Belt, which is never fun, but like I told Brennan or asked Brennan earlier in the show, if you have fun with it as a player, you're traveling with your boys, you're at a hotel with your boys, make it a bonding experience, be crazy in the dugout, just have fun. and stop pressing so much, because the last 2 or 3 weeks, ever since we got ranked, and it feels like the world has been on top of this team, whether it's been the offense and the players at the plate, or whether it's been on the pitching staff in the middle relief, where you're coming in and it's always a tightrope every single time because you're not getting support. Bottom line, we just got to get back to playing complementary baseball. Offense has to feed on defense and pitching, and vice versa. I don't want to go into the conference tournament having to win the tournament just to get into a regional. That's where I'm currently sitting. That's why this is a must-win weekend.
Yeah, I agree. You want to go in. I mean, if you have to go in and win a couple games, that's one thing. But going in having to win the tournament is so much pressure, and it doesn't often end well. Milton asked a good question, and something that we get frustrated with about constantly showing bunt, players coming to the plate, attempting to bunt with no one on base, bunting with 2 outs. A lot of that strategy, as it was explained to me, is the philosophy where if guys are playing back, they want to show bunt to try to force them to come in a little bit. I mean, whether or not that works, I don't know, but there is a strategy behind it that Deggs utilizes as far as trying to get the corners to come in once you show bunt or once you attempt to bunt. So again, it's not my favorite thing. I don't like having Rigo Hernandez up to bat with runners on first and third with 2 outs, and not giving him at least one chance to try to swing the bat. And then also the problem is we've not been very good at bunting this year, man. Outside of a couple of players, there's nobody who's reliably bunting the ball with success to try to move runners over. So again, it's a lot to do with the strategy that Deggs puts together, but whether or not you agree with it, I think that's a whole different topic that we could spend an hour talking about. But again, that series gets kicked off tomorrow afternoon at 5:00 Central. It will be on ESPN Plus. And then tomorrow at 3:00, I will sit down with the voice of the Dukes, Dave Riggert, to talk to him about the upcoming series. And he echoes a lot of what we're saying, but has some interesting tidbits as well behind the team, and also about Coach Napier, who has gone over to JMU. KG, let's talk about softball. Pop ball this weekend either. ULM bit us on the ass as well, as the ladies traveled over to ULM and got swept. It was even worse for them as it was for us. Now, in the grand scheme of things, the series is in our favor, like 64 wins to 9 for ULM. But still, you can't get swept by ULM. If we have goals of getting to a regional tournament, that's going to really, really hurt later in the season. And again, the season's not over, but they're 1 week ahead of us in conference play, and the results have not been good.
No doubt. One more thing, though, before I talk about softball, Nick, and not to throw a wrench in it, but my thoughts and prayers are with Coach Deggs and his family. I know he had to take the game off to travel to the East Coast and visit his dad, who's in the hospital, and so I did want to relay that to him and his family, that we are thinking about you, Coach. Hope everything is okay with that, and praying for the best. But yeah, let's get into softball. 20-16 overall. This was the most eye-popping thing for me. They're actually 2-10 away from Lamson. Don't know if y'all knew that. That's been their biggest bugaboo, is playing away from home this year. They're 3-6 in the Sun Belt, which is currently tied for second to last. And their RPI currently sits at 51. Like you mentioned, Nick, got swept at Monroe. So it's been a while since the Cajuns have been swept in a Sun Belt conference, weekend in general. But I don't know if they've ever got swept at Monroe. I would have to dig way back in the archives to find that answer for you.
I would seriously doubt it.
Yeah, they have lost series at Monroe before, but I don't know if they've ever been swept at Monroe. But nonetheless, a credit to the Warhawks, a credit to the Sun Belt as a whole. As I mentioned every time we come on the show, Sun Belt softball is really, really good. Honestly, maybe even a tick better than Sun Belt baseball is, as hard as that is to believe. Yeah, in game one, the Cajun bats went very cold early on, couldn't overcome the very disciplined ULM pitching staff, and they dropped that opener 4-1. Do want to show Kennedy Marceau some love. She got a double and an RBI in that game. In game two, Cajuns lost a heartbreaker in that one. It's pretty much back and forth the whole way, but ULM managed to get across a winning run late in that one to win 5-4. Mia Norwood, shout out to Mia, got a double and an RBI in that game as well. And then lastly, in the final game on Sunday, they tried to avoid that sweep, but they couldn't And they did get the offense going a little bit. They scored 5 runs, but the pitching staff struggled in that one, and they just weren't able to contain ULM's offense, and they ended up losing that one 7-5. Lily Knox in that one, though, did get a double and an RBI, and Kennedy Marceau again had a double and 3 RBIs in that one. Next weekend, they'll take on Troy at Lamson Park. That is almost a must-win series as it is for the boys having to go to JMU. It's weird how the 2 seasons are kind of mirroring each other in weird ways. It's like a lack of consistency up to this point, and you're just hoping that both teams can find a little consistency, because that's all it would take to get them over the hump. But yeah, they're going to play Troy at home next weekend. Troy's going to come in 22-12 overall, 4-5 in conference, and an RPI of 78. So if you're looking for something to do over the weekend, go to Lamson, support our girls while the boys are on the road, and yeah, I mean, hopefully they can come away with at least 2 or 3, because like the boys, you can't get too far down into those Sun Belt standings, because it will be an absolute grind to get yourself back to the top.
Yeah, and plus, like I said, they're a week more into the season than we are. So we're in week 4, they're in week 5. So they really need to start putting the pressure in and start getting things done. Yeah. So that's going on this weekend. Plenty to do in Lafayette outside of Easter. If you want to hit up Lamson Park, go do that and go do that little dance. What is it? The Haters. You know, Sherilyn's going to be out there doing the Haters dance. I love Sherilyn. She's awesome. Let's turn our attention to the rest of the Sun Belt Conference. And as far as Sun Belt Conference standings goes, Coastal Carolina leads with a perfect record at 9-0 on the season, followed by Texas State and ULM in second place at 6-3. It seems like whoever plays us, just rises in both RPI and in the conference standings. Then you've got a log jam for fourth place. Southern Miss, Arkansas State, South Alabama, Marshall, all at 5-4. James Madison and Troy follow them with a 4-5 record. Then Louisiana, App State, Old Dominion, and Georgia Southern, all 3-6 in conference. Georgia State is the caboose at 2-7. Taking a look around the Sun Belt as far as matchups this weekend, starting on Thursday, Louisiana, of course, travels to James Madison. That will be a 5 p.m. first pitch. And then Marshall will travel to App State as well on Thursday for a 5 o'clock start. Lots of 5 o'clock games going on, including the one in Conway, South Carolina, where Coastal will host South Alabama. That'll be an interesting series. Norfolk, Virginia will play host to Southern Miss as they travel over to Old Dominion. Again, Southern Miss having their troubles too offensively and starting to question whether or not they have the right guys in the lineup. So we'll see how that turns out. That gets started at 5 p.m. At 6 p.m. tomorrow night, San Marcos, Texas. Texas State hosts Georgia Southern. Troy will host Arkansas State at 6 o'clock tomorrow night, and ULM plays host to Georgia State as well. So that's a look around the Sun Belt. Before we get to Grimmies, I do want to ask you boys, did you get a chance to check out the SJ interview where we asked the ULM athletic director a bunch of questions? I know Lane's giving me a thumbs up back there. That was a lot of fun. If you haven't checked it out yet, SJ Tui, the ULM athletic director, I made him laugh when I talked about Lane Kiffin. It's actually one of the funnier moments I think we've had in an interview with anyone in a while. So SJ Tui, really cool. And yes, he is the guy from The Blind Side. No, I did not ask him questions about The Blind Side, considering there was a lawsuit involved with Michael Orr and the family. And you don't touch those things when you get into interviews like this. So it was a great interview. If you guys haven't had a chance to check it out, learn what's going on at UL Monroe and what we can expect from them next season in football. Finally, let's get to Grimmies, brought to you by Lafayette Travel and Eat Lafayette. The reason I'm doing this question again is because I hope that Jerry has a better answer than he did last year. So let's go around the horn. I'll start with you, Mike, because I'm catching you off guard, but on purpose. I think you can answer this one pretty quickly. It's Easter, man. And Easter candy, there's some good Shaws. My favorites are, of course, the little peanut butter eggs, and then the hollow chocolate, not the hard chocolate, because you break your teeth on that. I don't want to have to go get no cap on my tooth on Easter Sunday. So I like the hollow ones. What are your favorite Easter candies?
It will always be Skittles.
Okay.
Always.
Any special Skittles or just the regular Skittles?
The regular red bag Skittles. Since birth, that has been my go-to.
Nice. Okay. All right. I like it. Oh, look, JT getting to AA Frisco. Jordan Brock. I love that, man. And I think Rocco is going to be facing off with them tomorrow night. So that's going to be fun to watch. We've got a bunch of Cajuns in AA baseball. I like that. Lane, your favorite, I keep wanting to say Halloween, man. Easter candies.
The little robin eggs. I don't know what brand they are, but the little robin eggs are different colors. They're pretty good.
This guy's trying to trigger me, man. Those are the two nastiest shits that you can eat, man. That's what old people eat.
And
I swear to God,
that's what
Jerry
Jerry said last year.
I know, and that's why I'm giving him a second chance to say something that's actually good. So can we talk about that? Can we talk about, Jerry, your favorite Easter candy that's not gross?
I'll go with the Hershey's cookies and cream chocolate eggs.
I don't know if I knew there was that there. That sounds good. Is that baked into the? It's like just a.
Yeah, have you ever had the white chocolate cookies and cream Hershey's bars? It's just like that, but in the shape of an egg.
You have redeemed yourself, Jerry.
Thank you.
Finally.
You know what's funny about that is I've always loved Hershey's chocolate, and I think it came with like Allie's Halloween candy. Somebody had some Hershey's cookies and cream chocolate, and I'm like, I wonder what is this, because it's in a white pack instead of the typical brown pack that it comes in. So I said, let me try it. Dude, it was like the best thing I've had. And then I tried it on the eggs recently, the egg, and I'm like, this is great.
Does anybody like Peeps? I mean, I'm indifferent. I don't care, but I'm not going to eat them if they're sitting there. Daryl, what's wrong with you?
If it's the regular ones, no. But if it's like the flavored ones,
I know why. Daryl's getting up in age. Landon's like 40 now. Daryl's getting up in age, and he's got to take his false teeth out to eat that Shaw's, the hard candy. So he's sticking with the Peeps.
It's like the AAA to the Major League. What's it called? Werther's Originals. It's like the AAA of candies before you get to the Werther's.
Big Kev making an appearance, talking about Reese's eggs. That's what I'm talking about, man. I'm not going to say throw all the other shit away, but yeah, I'll go back and ask y'all what's your least favorite in a second. Now that we're talking about that, but go ahead, KG. What's your favorite?
Thank you for putting the comment up. No, you might as well go back to Kevin's because that's my answer. Reese's eggs. And you know what?
You can't get wrong with that, man.
If you collect them, you could put them in the fridge or the freezer, and it makes them even better. Mike, you're spot on with Skittles, by the way. I am personally a purple bag Skittles guy. I love the purple bag. And then lastly, I'll be honest with you, my metformin does work overtime when it's Easter because I eat a ton of candy, and I am a type 2 diabetic. But I'm old school. I like the chocolate rabbits, man, that come in the little boxes that you have to slide out and pull out. And as basic as that sounds, I like just snapping them off and walking around and eating it, man. I'm very basic. But my number one, no matter what, is definitely Reese's eggs. Put them in the fridge, let them get cold. Man, that's a hell of a snack right there.
I don't like the ramen eggs like Lane talked about because I think that's the little cream chocolate or whatever. I like the milk chocolate ones with those are the ones I like. Like those eggs that have the candy outside with the hard milk chocolate inside's really good. Nastiest candy corn and circus peanut. Dude, circus peanuts do y'all not like circus peanuts? I don't have a problem with circus peanuts. Reese's
I don't like candy corn, but I'll eat circus peanuts.
Man, before you go, because I'm gonna lose this thought. You'd go to Sears back in the day, and you'd go on the side. You remember when Sears was the thing, and you wouldn't go through the main entrance, and you wouldn't go through the back entrance. There was a side entrance, and you go through that, like right by where all the tools were, and they had a candy bar. And they would make popcorn. It smells so good. But my mama would put some that damn candy corn in there. And that was nasty. Drew guys saying natural light. Yeah, Natty Light is his favorite Easter candy. There you go. I like that. All right. What's your least favorite, Mike? Least favorite candy for Easter?
Oh, man. I like anything and everything, but at least probably coconut. I can't do coconut.
Oh. I'm with you. That's nasty. That's pretty gross. I'm with you because I don't like the crunch. I don't like that crunch.
Yeah,
Lane?
Exactly.
Not candy related, but it's coconut related. They finally came back out with the coconut Dr. Pepper. It's good.
What?
Why? Who asked for that?
There's such thing as coconut Dr. Pepper?
My boy James just paying our Easter basket right now. Got some Sears candy, the cherry sours. Oh, yes. I know exactly what you're talking about. Them cherry sours were good. All right, let's see you, Jerry. What's your least favorite?
You know, I for the most part I like jelly beans, but there's some of those flavors where you eat the jelly bean and you're like, what the hell did I just put in
The
my mouth?
licorice ones are nasty.
Yeah, like it's like that. There's always that one that surprises you. It's like a tanginess. And you're like, what is that? You don't even know what flavor it is, and you just want to spit it out right away. I don't like those.
I will never forget in first grade. My memory's crazy. First grade, we had a Mother's Day event in my first grade class, and they made a cake for all the moms. So my mom came off of work. She was still dressed in her. Well, she didn't come off of work. She probably took a break to come eat the stupid cake. She came eat the cake, and I wasn't prepared for it because I hated coconut as a child. But I took a bite of it, and it had that little crunchy coconut in there, and I threw up. That's nasty. I don't know what's wrong with you people. Or my mama. Moved on from snowball and snow cone. Well, because it's a snow cone. But that's the end of the debate. Cole, your thoughts. What's your least favorite Easter candy?
Hey, Big Kev, if I wanted to eat suntan lotion, that's
Thank
about
you.
what coconut is for me.
That's what I'm saying.
Coconut is
water?
terrible.
Have you had coconut water? That tastes like another fluid that I don't want to repeat, but it's nasty.
Anything coconut in the world is disgusting to me. Anyway, Almond Joy, keep that shit far away from me. Second on the list is peppermint patties.
Oh.
If I wanted to eat chocolate peppermint, I would eat toothpaste. Shit's terrible.
Give me the Almond Joy. Give me the Almond Joy.
You can have it. And then lastly, for me, I'm not a marshmallow fan. I don't really care for marshmallows. So like the Peeps and anything with marshmallow, I'm a chocolate lover. You give me something with chocolate other than coconut with it, I'm probably gonna eat it. But that's my big three. Keep anything coconut, mint, or marshmallow away from me.
Cole, everybody else is on the campfire with the marshmallows. You were sitting in the corner somewhere, right?
Yeah, I was the kid that stole all of the Hershey's bars while they were trying to look for them to make a s'more. I was in the back corner eating all that chocolate. Probably why I have diabetes now.
We used to go to Crooked Creek as a child. Like Crooked Creek, and you'd pull up your RVs, and we had all our campers, all that. And the damn Falcon kids, when they'd go plant, they had all the eggs. They'd go hide the eggs. They'd always cheat and like watch. And they'd find a way to cheat and going on watch. I still hold that grudge to this day. I don't know why I'm so mad about that still, but I'm still pretty pissed off about that. But no, coconut, not pineapple. I'll do pineapple, but not on that. You know what? Okay, so I'm doing a crawfish boil on Friday with my family. My neighbor chops up coconut, and then he puts, pineapple, and he puts that in the crawfish boil. Have you ever seen that? You know what it tastes like? It tastes like pineapple with crawfish boil. I don't get it. I literally don't understand the point of that.
I guess it's like a sweetener, right? Like it's like pineapple on a pizza, right? It sweetens it up a little bit.
Oh God, no.
Well, I'm not. I don't like that either. I'm not a big fan of pineapple. Blair loves it. She loves Hawaiian pizzas, but that's the only thing I can think of is the
pineapple doesn't belong on a pizza, Couillon.
Pineapple don't belong in a crawfish ball either.
Just like Cajun food don't belong in Hattiesburg. Speaking of Hattiesburg, Chuck McGraney coming
Chuck?
again, talking about Southern Miss having a roadblock. Yeah, man, I know. It's crazy. Look, Kendall is always very high on the team he's high on. He was very high on us last year, and you saw how that worked out. So I'm not going to blame the guy because he obviously has a lot of insight into Division I baseball, more than I do, times 10. But he's going to stick with the guys he believes in. And I think he's going to ride or die with Southern Miss this season. So nothing wrong with that. As long as Caleb Stelly hits below 100, I don't care what the rest of them do. That makes me okay. If it's Dustin, it's all Kev. Okay, let's talk about this for a second. Dustin Crawfish. Kevin told me last year, he asked me, he's like, how long do you dust them? How long? And I said, I usually soak it for about 20 minutes, dust it for 10. I dust it. And again, you're soaking it in the crawfish boil. We're not talking about not seasoning the crawfish, but you soak it for about 20 minutes instead of 30 to 40, 20 minutes. You take it out, you put it in a cooler, you add some seasoning, you shake it, you close it for about another 10, 15 minutes, and then you good. It soaks up into that Shaw's. I don't know. Kev, you said it was some of the best crawfish you've ever eaten, and now you're coming and shitting on my idea. My dad has done that. My dad is 91 years old, He knows what he's doing. He's been doing that his whole life. You telling me the man's wrong? I think you're wrong. I think the Patterson and the Berwick, wherever you live, is getting to your head, ball. Sorry, I had to go on that little rant.
I don't want to get too off on a tangent with the dusted versus not. We talked about it.
Well, it's Rachel Review After Dark now. So.
Yeah, but I do notice, like, I'll eat it either way. I don't care. I've always said that. But I wanted to ask y'all, like, what would be the benefit of shaking it and dusting it? Is it just add even more flavor on top of the flavor that's already in the boil? Because I feel like a lot of times without it, it's just as good. So I'm just kind of wondering, like, to y'all, like, what's the
steaming
extra benefit?
So you're basically steaming it. I mean, think about salt. When you put salt in water, are you gonna chew on salt when you're drinking the water? No, it's gonna be salty water. Right, it's the same thing. The seasoning is gonna dissolve as it steams, and it's gonna kind of soak into the crevices of the crawfish. Now, you will get a little bit more on the outside, so when you're peeling it, you do taste a little bit more seasoning because there's some on the outside. But all in all, it's basically the same shit. There's no right or wrong way to do it. The point is, season them, period, and it's going to be good. It don't matter how you do it.
If you steam them right, your seasoning's not going to cake up on the outside of the crawfish like the people who talk shit about dust. Because a dust is literally dust. It's not like you're throwing just seasoning on top of. Now there are some people who don't know how to boil crawfish who just dump a whole bag.
Oh man, how about the
seasoning.
one that put the I just said man, how about the one that just they put the garlic, the whole thing of garlic in the water? I'm like, that is doing nothing, bro.
Yeah, no doubt.
You're just putting garlic in the water.
No, but bottom line to me is, if you cooking it or you cooking it or you cooking it, you can do it. You can do it however the hell you want. You're cooking it. Now, if I'm doing it at my house, I'm gonna do it my way, and you either eat it or you don't. And you shit out of luck if you don't.
And kiss
so
my ass. That's what I'm saying.
Exactly.
Well,
more
for you, more for me, right? More for you, more for me.
Yeah, bottom line. Yeah.
Have y'all seen people, like, we talk about pineapple juice into the crawfish? What about orange juice? What do y'all think about that?
No.
I've seen people.
I'll put lemons because that does give it a little bit of. I don't even know if you taste it in the crawfish, but I like putting it. I will do that in a couple sticks of butter because, according to my dad, the butter helps you peel the crawfish easier, but I don't know if that's true or not.
Yeah, it is. The craziest thing I've seen put in crawfish is, I mean, and I've tried it before. I didn't do it, but the mustard and shake it in. My brother does that. It doesn't add a bad flavor, but it is different. It's not like your traditional Cajun crawfish. It does add a little something different. So, and also I've been to a crawfish bowl one time, and I wasn't the one cooking it. They did like teriyaki, but they weren't aiming for a Cajun style crawfish bowl. They wanted like an Asian style boil, and it actually came out, I'm not going to say pretty good. It was different. But it was definitely, you could eat it, it wasn't like you throwing up or throwing it out, but yeah, I've seen weird things put in crawfish, but traditionally you just go with your lemons, like Nick said. You got your vegetables, of course, and then batch by batch it gets hotter and hotter with the more ball you put in.
That's when it's good. Like the first batch is for the women because they, all right, too hot, it's too this, it's too that. Then I do it my way after that, and that's the best one. I'm just saying.
Oh, you can ask Mike. On the patio at Luke's house, you got to wait for about the third batch. That's when it gets you. If you eat that batch, your ass is going to be on fire. That's what I'm going to say.
You're going to be fiery thoughts.
Oh, you're going to be melting some porcelain after you eat that crawfish.
And yes, James, I did say garlic. It's a garlic in the jar. It's garlic, bro. Come on. Mike, what is your take? You've been quiet, bro.
I agree with all. It's always you always boil in the seasoning. You take it out, you put it in the cooler. You take a whole nother bag of seasoning, you pour it on top, you shake it, you let it sit, and then you tear it up.
Why is that so controversial, though?
It's always been tradition for me. That's usually that's how I grew up doing it.
Because you came up with a good family, like the Bearbs. We family. You learn how to do it.
The big argument is, my hands are getting dirty. I got to get other stuff in my hands.
Then you shouldn't be eating freaking crawfish.
Yeah, well, what's the point?
Your hands are going to get dirty either way. I mean, with or without it. I mean, even without it, your hands still get dirty. I mean,
I've said this a couple of times. I think what gets lost in translation is that these people that you dust, you must not boil, you must not put crab ball in your water. No, you put in your crab ball, you're doing everything normal. You're just adding on to it once it's done. And like I just said, if you steam it right, there's really nothing caked up extra on the crawfish. It's just as good. So,
but here's my question to them every time: who hates more seasoning? Like, when is more seasoning bad on shit? Like, less seasoning is bad, but more seasoning, unless it's super salty and awful, which it never is. Like, what are you talking about? less seasoning.
The more the better.
Cass that's what I'm saying, man. Soaking dust. You know, it's like a Mormon thing. You soak and then you dust. Then you're done.
You ain't gonna change the minds of these people though, Nick. If you dust, you dust. If you don't, you don't. If you're
But
somewhere in the middle.
Pisses me off, it's usually the people who aren't even from Acadiana that are arguing with us. Like it's people from Hattiesburg. Where you think you shut up? Like I'm not going over there to tell you how to make a chili dog because Ward's does it. Well, I could because Scott Barr had the best chili dogs and I had the recipe. But the point is, I'm not going to tell you, oh, you need to do Ward's like this. No, because that's your thing. You leave my thing alone. I'm gonna do it how I want to do it.
Oh no, the people in Baton Rouge are the best.
Oh no, they're the worst. They're the worst at everything.
They're the king of Cajun cuisine, even though they're a carpetbagger city. You know, I mean, it just cracks me up. Y'all do it this way.
We're not getting into. I'm not in the mood. I
don't want to raise.
I gotta go to Lafayette tomorrow. I can't be all night talking about that shit, boys. It has been a lot of fun. Thank y'all for doing this with me every week. You know, we got Easter weekend coming up. Probably will not be here with a post game show on Saturday because we all got stuff to do. It's Easter weekend. It's time for the family, but we'll be back next week at our usual date and time. And give you some good wrap-up information from the JMU series as well as the upcoming series. And we'll touch on softball, and we'll do all that, y'all, and we'll have a lot of fun, and I'll have a Grammys. And we'll get crazy, maybe. It depends. It depends how things go. But for all of you guys here, for my boy KG, for Jerry, for Lane, and for Mike, thanks to Brendan Bro again for coming on the show. Again, tomorrow afternoon at 3 o'clock, I'll be on with... Dave Riggert, the voice of JMU, to talk baseball and other things. And we got to find a way to get Natty Daddy a natural ideal, man. We got to make it happen before the end of the year. We'll make it happen. Thanks as always for joining. Like, subscribe, and share this stream. And until next time, boys and girls, have a very happy Easter. Enjoy some time with the family. And as always, go Cajuns.